Welcome back to Inherited Dawn, a One Piece podcast. We are diving into chapter 239, Angel Beach.
And what an arrival. After all the buildup, all the mockery and disbelief in Jaya, they finally made it.
They made it. They burst through the clouds and land in a sea in the sky. And the first person they meet? An actual, literal angel.
Or so it seems. We should always be careful with first impressions, especially on the Grand Line.
True, but you can't deny the feeling of this chapter. If you believe, like Luffy, that there's always a new adventure waiting just over the horizon, then maybe you'd believe in leaving us a review. It helps other dreamers find their way to the Sky Islands of content. Now let's get into it, because this chapter is a breath of fresh, high-altitude air.
It begins with the Going Merry traveling up this incredible cloud river. The knock-up stream has done its job, and now they're just ascending. There's a quiet majesty to these first few panels. The chaos of the launch is over, and now it's just the aftermath, the journey to the destination.
It's the victory lap of the Jaya arc. They didn't just listen to the old man, they put their ship and their lives on the line for his dream. They survived the launch, which was a super feat of navigation by Nami and sheer willpower from the rest of them. And the Mary, we gotta give it up for the Mary. That ship took a beating in Jaya, got some quick fixes from Asira's crew, and then got shot way up into the sky by a geyser. What a tough little caravel.
It's a ship with its own inherited will at this point. It carries the spirit of Kaya, and now it carries the dreams of the Sarayuma Alliance. So seeing it calmly floating up this pillar of cloud, it feels earned. It feels serene.
And then they burst through and the whole world changes. It's one of Oda's signature double-page spreads, a moment so big it can't be contained in a single page. A sea of clouds, the white sea, stretching out as far as you can see. You can almost feel the pressure change in your ears just looking at it.
The terminology is immediately interesting. Not the white sea, but the white sea. The repetition implies something more, a higher level of whiteness, perhaps. It's a place beyond the sea they know. And the physics of it are immediately fascinating. It's not just vapor, it has density, it has waves, it can support the weight of a ship. Zoro even calls it a bottomless sea. This isn't just a cloud they can fall through, it's a new state of matter for all they know.
You gotta wonder what it's made of. Oda introduces this concept of sea clouds and island clouds, which implies a whole new meteorology. Is it pyrobloin from the seawater being condensed in a unique way? Is it some mineral unique to this altitude? Whatever it is, it's dense enough to swim in, but light enough to float. My shipwright brain is going into overdrive just thinking about it. How do you build a dock on a cloud? How do you anchor a ship? The logistics are a super fun puzzle.
And it poses a significant threat. If this sea is bottomless, then falling overboard is not just a risk of drowning, it's a risk of falling all the way back to the blue sea. The stakes are immediately and quietly raised. This beautiful paradise is also a place of extreme danger where one wrong step could be fatal. It's very Grand Line.
And the island itself, Godland Skypiea, buildings made of cloud, landmasses made of cloud. It's exactly the kind of impossible dreamscape that makes One Piece what it is. Oda didn't just put an island in the sky. He built an entire ecosystem up there, a whole new paradigm. That is a super level of world building.
The name Godland is also a very deliberate choice. It immediately establishes a hierarchy and a sense of divine authority. This isn't just a wild island, it's a nation, a kingdom with a ruler who is, or called, God. That raises a lot of questions. What kind of God? And what happens when a boy who wants to be king of a world with no gods shows up on his doorstep?
Oh man, I didn't even think of it like that. Luffy versus God. That's a heck of a setup. But before we get to any of that, we get the crew's reaction, and it's perfect. Nami, the navigator, is seeing a new ocean to chart, and Robin, the archaeologist, is seeing a new civilization to understand. But Luffy, Usopp, and Chopper?
Zero hesitation. The moment they hit that beach, they're gone. Not a single thought about safety or where they are or what the rules are. They're not processing, they're experiencing. It's just pure, unfiltered joy and excitement. Luffy's face is just pure bliss. This is what he lives for. This is the payoff for believing in romance. That's the heart of the crew right there.
It's a wonderful contrast to their time in Jaya. Jaya was cynical, violent, and grounded in a grim reality. Bellamy's philosophy was about mocking dreams. This moment, this pure explosion of joy, is the direct refutation of everything Bellamy stood for. Dreams aren't just real, they're more beautiful and more wondrous than you could imagine.
Sanji gets swept up in it too, which is always fun to see. He tries to maintain his cool, lean against the railing and look suave, but the spirit of adventure is infectious with Luffy around. He can't help but crack a smile and go along for the ride. The call of a new world is just too strong.
Meanwhile, Zoro, the practical one, is asking about the anchor. He's the only one thinking, how do we stop the boat in a bottomless ocean? It's such a brilliant, simple question that grounds the entire fantastical scene. And Luffy's response is just not caring at all. Who cares about that? Let's go. It's such a perfect little moment.
It perfectly encapsulates their dynamic. Zoro is the anchor of the crew in so many ways, trying to ground them in reality, asking the necessary, difficult questions. But Luffy is the captain who insists on sailing a sea with no bottom. He operates on a different level of logic, one based entirely on instinct and desire. And in the end, Zoro just sighs and drops the anchor anyway, knowing it won't do anything. He knows who he signed up with.
He really does. He doesn't fight it. He doesn't argue. He just sighs, says whatever, and lets the anchor drop into the endless white. It shows the immense trust he has. He's basically saying, okay, Captain, this is your crazy world. I'll play by your rules, even when there are no rules. It's one of my favorite Zoro moments, honestly. It's quiet, but it speaks volumes about their relationship.
It's the acceptance of the absurd. That's a prerequisite for being on the Straw Hat crew. And once that's settled, we get this little comedic beat with the Southbird, who they forgot to release. It just attacks Nami and flies off. A perfect little button on the journey up.
Classic Oda. Oh yeah, that giant compass-headed bird we kidnapped. Almost forgot about him. It's a nice little gag, but also a good way of showing they've officially arrived. Their guide has left them. They're on their own now.
It's a classic Oda loose end. He never forgets, even the small details. But Nami makes a much more important connection right after that moment of levity. She looks at the island and recognizes the name, Skypiea. It's the same name from the map they found on that centuries-old galleon that fell from the sky.
Chills. That's the validation. That's the proof. Everything they fought for in Jaya, all the ridicule they endured by Bellamy and his crew, it was all real. Noland wasn't a liar. The City of Gold is real. Sky Islands are real. Imagine how Nami feels in that moment. She's a cartographer who's just discovered a new world that isn't on any known map. This is her dream, realized in a way she never could have anticipated.
And it's not just a map, it's a historical document. For a character like Robin, this is the equivalent of finding a poneglyph. It's tangible proof of a history that the world has forgotten or dismissed as fantasy. The galleon, the map, and now the island itself, they form a chain of evidence stretching back hundreds of years. This validates not just Nolan's story, but the very concept of seeking out a hidden, true history.
And that's when Luffy says it. The whole island is filled with the scent of adventure. It's his compass. He doesn't need a log post up here. He can just smell the promise of the unknown. That's such a cool, instinctual way to describe his motivation. It's not about treasure or fame for him. It's about the feeling, the smell of a good story waiting to happen.
While Luffy is smelling adventure, Nami's just happy to be somewhere the Marines can't reach. It's a nice character moment for her. For all the wonder and cartographic ecstasy, her primary concern is still the safety and security of the crew and the ship. Her past with Arlong has ingrained in her a deep-seated fear of being pursued by powerful, oppressive forces. Up here in the sky, she's finally able to relax. Just for a second.
It's like a true safe haven. For now, anyway, the exploration of the beach itself continues the sense of wonder. Luffy finds a strange, pumpkin-like fruit and immediately tries to bite it because, of course he does. Seafood, eat food. That's the Luffy way. And it's hard as a rock.
It's a subtle way of establishing that the rules of nature are different here. A fruit you can't bite into? That's unusual. It suggests a different kind of biology, a different evolutionary path for the flora of this island.
And Zoro has my favorite line here. He steps off the ship onto the beach and you can see him processing it. He says something like, "Is this really a cloud? My feet are wet." It's so simple, but it tells you everything about how alien this environment is. The fundamental rules don't apply. Water is supposed to be wet. Dirt is supposed to be dry. This is a solid you can stand on, but it has the properties of a liquid.
The ground itself has the properties of water. It's a solid, but it's also a liquid. This place is a paradox. It challenges your most basic assumptions about the world. And watching Zoro, the most grounded and stoic member of the crew, grapple with that paradox in such a simple, direct way is brilliant. He's not shouting about how amazing it is. He's quietly trying to reconcile it with his understanding of reality.
And Sanji is just being Sanji, picking flowers for Nami, who is completely ignoring him because she and Chopper have discovered sofas from clouds. Can you imagine just sitting on a cloud? The pure comfort. It must be like the world's most perfect memory foam. I'd build a whole house out of that stuff. A super comfy cloud house.
But then atmosphere shifts. The lighthearted exploration gives way to something else. Music starts to play. A small fox appears out of nowhere, sniffing around. The vibe goes from whimsical and exploratory to something else, something observant. You get the sense that they are being watched.
Yeah, the tone gets a little eerie. Usopp's first thought is that it might be a raider. His long nose is tingling. They're on guard now. They've been on enough crazy islands to know that a beautiful paradise can turn deadly in a second. They see a figure on a hill in the distance, silhouetted against the sky.
And Sanji, bless his heart, sees wings and a harp and his brain just circuit breaks. His danger sense is completely overridden by his love of beautiful women. He starts screaming that it's an angel. It's hilarious, but it's also a perfect tell. Sanji's weakness is a known quantity and it's always used for great comedic effect.
It is an incredible reveal. This beautiful woman with little white wings on her back, holding a harp, she just turns, gives them a little salute, and starts walking towards them. No hostility, just curiosity. Oda's design work here is fantastic. It's exactly what you'd picture if you were told to draw an angel, but with a unique one-piece flair.
Her design is wonderful. It's simple, elegant, and immediately sells the angel aesthetic of this island. Her hair is styled in a way that looks like antennae, a common trait we'll see among the Skypians. And she asks if they're from the blue seas, which is a telling question.
Right? It's not where are you from, it's are you from the blue seas? It implies that's the only other place they conceive of. It reinforces their isolation. It also implies they get visitors, but maybe not often. Or maybe there are other seas we don't even know about. And Luffy just blurts out that they flew up from below, which is the most Luffy explanation possible. No lies, no subtlety, just the absurd truth.
And she doesn't question it. She just accepts it with a smile. This suggests that the knock-up stream is a known phenomenon to them, even if it's rare for people to successfully ride it. She introduces the place as Angel Beach, and then shows Luffy how to open the fruit he was trying to eat, the Conis. She just cuts it open, and it's full of juice.
And Luffy loves it. It's this perfect little welcoming gesture. She saw him struggling, and instead of mocking him or being suspicious, her first instinct is to help. It sets a really peaceful, friendly tone for Skypiea. She's disarming them with simple kindness.
She introduces herself as Conis, and we learn the little cloud fox is named Sue. And Nami is immediately ready with 1,000 questions, which is exactly right for her. She's in a cartographer's paradise, a whole new world to map and understand, a new culture, new weather patterns, everything. Her mind must be racing.
The peaceful vibe lasts for all of 5 seconds before a dude on a waver comes flying out of the cloud sea and crash lands on the beach. Classic One Piece entrance. No one just walks into a scene. You have to explode, crash, or fall into it.
This is Pagaya, Conis' father, and his vehicle is the next major piece of the puzzle. It's a single-person skiff that moves with no visible means of propulsion, and Nami instantly recognizes it.
The waiver from Mont Blanc Nolan's journal. This is the second huge piece of validation in one chapter. The diary wasn't just stories, it was a factual historical document. Nami's faith in it is paying off in a huge way. First the name Skypiea, now the technology. It's all real.
And this confirms that the technology of this island has been stable for at least 400 years. The waver isn't a new invention, it's an established part of their culture. That is a significant detail. A society that has maintained the same level of technology for 4 centuries is either incredibly advanced and has perfected its tools, or it's stagnant. It's too early to say which.
Pagaya's introduction is just as warm as Conis's after he's done crashing. He just pops up asking if anyone's hurt, and Zora's like, you should be asking yourself that. He's this goofy, friendly old man. He even shows them his catch, sky lobsters. The food in Skypiea is already looking top tier. I bet Sanji's mind is racing with recipe ideas. Cloud steamed sky lobster with a Conis reduction sauce.
She gets invited to his house, which is the perfect setup for some much-needed exposition. But Nami, ever the navigator and now a burgeoning engineer, is focused on one thing.
The waver. How does it move without wind? There's no sail, no engine noise, no smoke. It just goes. It's silent, it's fast, and it's elegant. It's a piece of tech that shouldn't exist.
And Conis gives the answer. One word that defines this entire arc's unique power system and changes everything we know about technology in the One Piece world. Dials.
Dials. I got so hyped reading this for the first time. It's not a devil fruit, it's not some mystical energy, it's technology. It's a tangible, physical thing that powers their society. Oda's laying the groundwork for a whole new set of rules for our crew to learn, and, let's be real, for Usopp and Franky, well, future Franky, to play with. This is my kind of power system.
Okay, but think about what this means on a deeper level. A dial can store and presumably release energy in a way that propels a vehicle. What else can they do? Conis says it stores the wind's energy, so there's a wind dial. By extension, what other forms of energy or elements can be stored? If there's a waver dial, could there be an impact dial, a flame dial, an air dial that stores breathable atmosphere?
Bro, an impact dial sounds devastating. Imagine Usopp getting his hands on that. He could put one on his slingshot and fire shots that explode with concussive force. Or he could put one on his belt buckle as a last resort defense. Someone tries to punch him and bam! Their own force gets thrown right back at them. The possibilities are super endless. A jet dial could give him rocket boots.
Exactly. The potential applications are immense, both for civilian life and for warfare. This is a form of technology completely unknown to the Blue Sea. The world government, with its obsession with control and military might, would classify this as a weapon of unimaginable power. The fact that it's just casually used for transportation here speaks volumes about this island's isolation and perhaps its innocence. They might not even conceive of the destructive potential of their own technology.
It's the perfect introduction to the arc's central mystery. It's not just how do we get to the next island, it's what is this technology and what can it do? It opens up a whole new toolbox for the series, especially for the non-superpowered members of the crew. It's a way for them to level the playing field against Logia users and monsters of the Grand Line.
It also deepens the Noland connection. He must have seen these dials 400 years ago. He described the waver in his journal. He might have even brought some back, which could explain how he was so far ahead of his time in his botanical and navigational knowledge. Perhaps he applied dial-like principles to his research. The history of this place is directly tied to its technology. It's a culture defined by a single, unique resource, much like Alabasto is defined by its dance powder scarcity, or Wano is by its sea stone.
Before we get to predictions, I just gotta shout out Oda's author comment this week. He watched a DVD of some old show called Rainbow Man, where the villains, the Dai group, try to ruin Japan's economy by making fake money. What a concept. It's so simple and evil. I love it.
It's a very Oda-esque thing to appreciate, a villainous plot that is both incredibly sinister in its real-world implications and fundamentally absurd in its presentation. It tracks perfectly with his style of villains, like Buggy trying to blow up a town or Wapple trying to eat a country. The scale is huge, but the method is often cartoonish.
It really does. If you've got your own theories about what these dials are or what kind of trouble Luffy is about to cause in Paradise, leave them in the comments. We love reading through the different ways people see this story unfolding.
All right, predictions for Chapter 240. I'll start. This place feels a little too perfect. Godland Skypiea, Angel Beach, the kind and welcoming Conis and Pagaya. There's an old saying, if something seems too good to be true, it probably is. Conis mentions this is the land of God. I predict we're going to meet this God very soon, or at least hear about his laws, and he's not going to be as benevolent as the name suggests. The Straw Hats are going to inadvertently commit some kind of blasphemy just by being themselves, probably within the next chapter or two. Luffy will likely punch something he's not supposed to.
Oh, for sure. That's a given. My first one is along those lines, but more immediate. They're going to Pagaya's house. That means we're getting a feast. Sanji is going to cook those sky lobsters and whatever else they have, and we're going to get a classic Straw Hat party scene. Oda loves to use these moments to establish a baseline of peace and friendship before everything goes horribly wrong. It's the calm before the inevitable storm. This party will be the last moment of pure, uncomplicated fun they have for a long time.
My second prediction, we're going to learn about the darker side of Skypiea's history. Nolan's journal mentioned the Shandia, the people from Jaya with their city of gold, Shandora. The people we've met so far are the Skypieans, the angels. The Shandia aren't here on Angel Beach. I think we'll get a hint from Pagaya, perhaps an offhand comment or a story, that there's a conflict between the Skypieans and the descendants of the Jaya people. I believe the Shandia are also on this island, but they live somewhere else, likely as outcasts or rebels, still fighting for the homeland Nolan wrote about. This paradise is built on a foundation of conflict.
Ooh, that's heavy, and it sounds exactly right. My second prediction is all about the tech. Usopp is going to get his hands on a dial, not an impact dial or anything crazy just yet, but something simple. Maybe Pagaya gives him a broken waver to tinker with, or he finds a small, discarded one. This is going to be his arc. He's the tinkerer, the inventor, the guy who works with what he has. Dials are tailor-made for his fighting style, which is based on ingenuity, not brute force. This chapter is the beginning of a major power-up for Usopp, one that will redefine how he fights for the rest of the series. He's going to become the Dial Master. It's a super perfect fit for him.
That's a strong prediction. The introduction of dials feels like a deliberate gift to his character. Well, that's all the time we have for this week. This was a chapter of pure wonder, setting the stage for what is sure to be an incredible adventure.
You said it. The air is thin, the sea is made of clouds, and the scent of adventure is everywhere. Join us next time as we see what awaits the Straw Hats in the house of an angel. Until then, keep dreaming.